welcome back to my channel. This is Wishblend reporting. Today we're talking about a theory. What theory, you may ask? Well, this is a theory I came up with myself. It revolves around the Master Sword and the nature of malice. Now, where should we start? Well, right back at the beginning. The beginning is demise and his hatred for the goddess and all who serve her. That's what it comes down to, really. But I'll come to that more as we go through the theory a bit more. The first sighting of the goddess sword, as it was known at the time, was when goddess Hylia used it to beat back the demonic forces on the surface in the pre-creation story of Skyward Sword. But as you can see, it said she sealed them away. Not killed, not destroyed, sealed away. The next time we see the sword is when Link pulls it from the stone in the goddess statue at the start of the game. Nothing's changed since when the goddess used it. But he's holding it up and he gets a nice shine on it, as you can see here. Now this brings into the start of my theory. What if the sword was actually an energy conduit? What I mean is the sword was designed and made by the goddess using advanced technology, designed to take and absorb a specific type of energy, which we're going to call divine energy. Using that energy, Link can raise the sword to activate a overcharge effect, which causes the sword to glow, and when he flicks it, it releases an energy beam of pure energy. We know it's pure energy. Well, we know it's an energy beam because V actually said there beams of energy. Moving on to why this is important. Well, it all depends on what the energy is used for. So far, it's always used to defeat, Ganon, Ganondorf, Demise, and all the other enemies at the end of the Zelda games, with the exception of Zelda Breath of the Wild, where you defeat the clumsy Ganon, Dark Beast Ganon, without using said Master Sword. An issue there is, well, it wasn't the proper Ganon or Ganondorf or Demise. It was an offshoot, a fragment, which is why the full power of the Master Sword was not needed. There's also the issue of the Master Sword kept running out of energy. But why was it running out of energy? It's powered by divine energy. But there lies the crux of the issue. How does it charge up divine energy? Well, two ways. One is from the pedestals. There's various different ones scattered around the kingdom in all the different games. And the other one is when Link taps into the essence of a Triforce. Mainly the Triforce of Courage, because that's the one he usually uses. So with those energy top-ups, the sword kept going all the time through all the different games. Not once has the sword been damaged, because the structure of the sword, the energy field holding it together, making it a deadly weapon that it is, has not ran out until Breath of the Wild. Now, I'll come back to this in a little while, further in the episode. Moving on to the other part of my theory, it's the nature of malice. I feel that the pure nature of malice is it is a negative, corrosive energy. The opposite of the positive energy that the goddess, the Triforce, give out. And they are total opposites, so they cannot coexist. One has to defeat the other. It's a good versus evil thing in an energy scale. We know in the lore of Skyward Sword, the creation myth, that the goddess sent the humans skyward above the clouds and then fought the demonic forces, including Demise, and defeated Demise and sealed him in the sacred ground. We also know that Zelda, in her Hylia reincarnation form, stayed back in time to power the seal to keep Demise striking the imprisoned locked away behind the sacred ground seal. Over time, I think it's 10,000 years, the seal weakened enough so the spirit of Demise's sacred sword, Garim, was released. Garim, he basically was the main enemy we fought and battled through Skyward Sword, all the way up to the end where he was reconverted back into Demise's sacred sword that he used to do the endgame fights. The key part here is, why did the seal fail? Not once, not twice, 3 times. Well, it comes down to malice and its corrosive nature. Now, how the easiest way to explain it would be sort of like radiation. Whenever you look at the malice in Breath of the Wild, let me bring some up for you so you see what I'm on about. As you can see here, you got a load of red dots in the air. That's the what I call a malice radiation permeating the air you breathe. That's coming from the malice. This footage is actually from inside the castle, so it's concentrated. But if you go into any divine beasts or other areas we've got malice, it has the same effect. It doesn't drain your health, but it gives the visual impression that it's a corrosive, negative energy. This particular scene here, you have the malice took a life now and we've taken out the eyeballs to clear certain malice. This is on one of the sections of the game where it's that concentrated. It's just a thick, fluid that literally just creeps and grabs and grows and absorbs stuff. I see it's climbing up the towers and on this shot. On this particular one of the climbing towers in Breath of the Wild, you see that the malice is everywhere. But if we take out the eye here, it gets malice from way around the column, because the malice is corrosive and it ate the column at the base. When the malice went, there's nothing left. So we have our way up the tower. Moving back to the battle with the imprisoned, one of my theory focal points is the reason that the imprisoned stroke Demise keep escaping from the sacred pit where they were sealed is, like all things negative, they build an immunity to the item. Where the goddess sealed demise away with the goddess harp and the sword, it started to build an immunity to the goddess's energy. It still hurts because it's the opposite of what the malice is made up of, because it's a pure goddess energy is pure positive. But it takes more power to seal the forces of hatred, negative malice away. Here we see Link just uses a simple triangle slash to reseal it after he charges it up with the energy from the sword. In the later attempts, we have to do more complex forms than that to seal him in, because he requires a stronger lock on the cell. As the game progresses, we need to get stronger power in our sword as we evolve the goddess sword into the master sword to seal the imprisoned demise back in this cell in the pit. Because we're not destroying him at this point, we're just trying to seal him, keep him contained. So we've already got one goddess's power in the sword, so what we need to do is get the 3 golden goddesses powers. Faru, Nehru and Din. Here we've managed to get Faru's power and upgraded the Master Sword to stage 1, shall we say. When we do this, we increase the overall spirit of the hero a small amount, as shown by the essence of the Triforce of Courage appearing on his hand. This is the second power up of the Goddess Sword, using the power from Nehru. As you see, the sword's getting a lot brighter, more fancy flames around it. And again, when Link absorbs the power, the spirit of the hero gets stronger. And we get the second essence of the Triforce. In this case, the Triforce of Wisdom. That moves us on to the last one, which is Din. Goddess Din. And with this, it turns the Goddess Sword into the Master Sword. Not the true Master Sword, not yet, but each goddess gives the energy of the sword a good strong boost. And that is, so at the moment we've got 4 goddesses powers in this one artifact, this one sword. So it is really strong. And of course, with that in mind, we've now got a complete Triforce. But the Master Sword will not become the true Master Sword until the reincarnated Hylia gives her own energy to top the sword off. So there's now 5 different types of power, divine energy, powering this one sword. We know in Zelda Skyward Sword, Demise has two forms, a past and a present. In the present time, we defeat him to destroy his essence by dropping the goddess statue on his head and using the power of the Triforce to eradicate him. In the past, we have to fight him sword to sword. We do that, and then he goes on about the eternal curse, the blood of the goddess, the spirit of the hero, and this hatred incarnate. I'll come to them later in the episode as a side note, but the key part on this is so far in the story, Demise has only been sealed away. When he was first defeated by the goddess, he was sealed in the sacred grounds. When he escaped the sacred grounds in his imprisoned form all three times, he was just defeated and resealed back in the sacred grounds. Here, after we defeat him in a battle, V confirms the eradication of the Demon King, but his residual consciousness has been absorbed into the Master Sword. So while his energy has been eradicated, the consciousness, the soul, so to speak, that makes up who Demise is still there, but it's in the Master Sword. So Master Sword has now become his new cell, which is good because he's got all the energy from the different goddesses holding him in place. As long as the sword does not get damaged or broken, he will be kept there for basically eternity, to the end of time. Okay, let's move on to Zelda Breath of the Wild game related content. We're going to just watch the tapestry tale of what happened to Planet Gammon 10,000 years ago. Again, we have the tale of Ganondorf, demise, Calamity Ganon. They're being sealed away, not destroyed, sealed. And still at this time, demise is consciousness is still in the sword. It doesn't say whether it's unconscious or conscious, it's just that its consciousness is in the sword. What we can kind of speculate on is that all this time, Fi, the Spirit of the Master Sword, is fighting demise, his consciousness, which is still held securely in the Master Sword. The energy that makes up the Master Sword is slowly and surely getting whittled down. Yes, it's been topped up over the eons with, being placed in the sacred pedestals, and by Link using the Triforce of Courage, the essence of it. But it is a losing battle. Now, yes, we watched the tapestry of the battle 10,000 years ago, where the hero, the guardian, machines, and the divine beast say basically easily defeated Calamity Ganon. Now, fast forward, 10,000 years, plus up to 100 for the timeline. They dig out all the divine beasts, refurbish all these guardian sentinel robots, because that's pretty much what they are, and they get ready for the battle. But when the battle happens, Ganon and his corrosive malice had built up a resistance to the Guardians and the Divine Beasts. He knew how they worked because of the last battle they had 10,000 years ago. So, as soon as he erupted from the castle, he sent his malice out, this influence, and took control of them. Moving on to the Master Sword, we see here that for the first time in Zelda history, the Master Sword has taken damage. It's covered in blood and malice, but you can see chips in it. Fi is still alive in there because she's glowing, so we know that she's alive. After Link is sent off to the Shrine of Resurrection, Zelda brings the Master Sword to the pedestal inside the Lost Woods in front of the Great Deku Tree. As you can see the sword here, you can see a lot better than this clip. It is severely damaged, chips in the blade. It is really a sore state for itself. Now, the only way they can fix the Master Sword is to let it rest by placing it in one of the pedestals. As you can see, Zelda just did that, and now it's glowing and it's regenerating its health. Along comes Link, and he has to have enough strength to pull the sword out of the ground. This is mainly because, unlike Skyward Sword, where you just reach in and pull it out with his two hands straight up, no problem, in Breath of the Wild, the sword's energy is still depleted. That's also why when you're fighting with it, yes, it doesn't break because the durability is through the roof, but the energy that makes up its structure can only give so much before it's drained, because it's still fighting to keep demise contained. That's why it takes time to recharge when it's depleted. In Tears of the Kingdom, we see Link picking up this Master Sword from outside the Deku Tree, probably the sacred pedestal, before it's attacked by a concentrated form of malice. This has also been sent by Ganondorf when he's revived. I'm not sure if it's going to be underground or above ground. It's one of those things we have to wait and see. Of course, that leaves the Master Sword badly corroded and in need of a lot of TLC. But because the Master Sword has now been damaged, it has consequences. What consequences, you might ask? Well, I think it's pretty obvious. With the energy structure of the sword compromised, half of it melted away with the corrosive malice, the consciousness of demise is released. It can't be contained in its prison cell any longer. Why do I say this is demise? A couple of things. One is his hair, and the other is his hands. Here we have Ganondorf and Demise, the two people with red hair hand comparison. The one on the left is what I say Demise, the one on the right is Ganondorf, because we had a full body shot on that. Notice the claws on the left hand, or on the left hand side. Ganondorf's hand does not have claws, but I'll tell you who does. Again, a nice close-up of the clawed hands, and then a image of the same hand from Skyward Sword Demise. That is why I'm saying the one with the big long red hair standing in front of the Blood Moon is Demise. Back, he's released from his prison inside the Master Sword. And that brings this theory to a close. Basically, I'm saying that if you have an intelligent, really negative, corrosive malice fueled by the hatred of the goddess and anything positive, good in the world, including the goddesses. The Master Sword is advanced technology designed to use divine energy to charge itself up to always be stronger as and when it is needed. As such, it was used to store Demise's consciousness at the end of Skyward Sword because the Sacred Pit wasn't working. Demise and his malice had built up an immunity to it, and he was just going to keep breaking out, so they needed a stronger solution. But that is not the end of my episode. I have a few things that I've discovered during the making of this theory that I'd like to share with you as well. During my gameplay of Skyward Sword, I come across pretty much all the allies apart from the one in the bottom right hand corner. Didn't come across that type of race. Not as an ally. A nice close up here for you. But then it made me think, it has a similar resemblance to something else we've seen recently. Is it that the Sonai were available and helping Hylia back in the Skyward Sword era? Don't know. It's just speculation on my part, but it kind of looks like it fits. So I thought I'd let you know. If it turns out that the Sonai were active back in the Skyward Sword era, then where have they been? Why haven't we seen them in all the iterations of the games we've had? Lore-wise, there should have been some mention of them, because we've got the regulars, but the Sonai have just been a mysterious race nobody has heard of until ruins of them were discovered in Breath of the Wild. It is possible, I suppose, that when the goddess Hylia raised the islands up above the clouds, the outcroppings of rock from Skyward Sword, that she also made some sort of ability, either a cloak in the field to hide the Sinai sky islands inside the thick bank of clouds, below the sky loft and all the others up in the sky. Because I've seen it where if you're down on the surface looking up, you can see blue skies. But if you're above the clouds and sky islands in Skyward Sword looking down, you just got that thick white bank of cloud. But when you skydive through it, it's a thick time cut sequence. It is possibly big enough to hide the sky islands which we've got in Twilight Sky. Sorry, my apologies. In Tears of the Kingdom. Now, they could have been hidden that way, or it could be there's a parallel world similar to where we are now, but it's like a slight shift where Demise was and Ganondorf was still defeated and the Sonai are there. But with the destruction of the Master Sword, the magical power hiding the Sonai and keeping the secret locations where the Tears of the Kingdom are actually held are basically revealed. We know the 7 tiers in Tears of the Kingdom. We know Zelda has one. We know the other races. The Sora, the Vito, Gerudo, possibly Gorn, all have them. And it's possibly going to be that Link, because he did the he's got the spirit of the hero, doesn't need to earn his own tier of the kingdom, but he has to help the individual races fulfill their bloodline pledge or something and do a dungeon trial for every single one to get the tiers before finding Zelda and saving the day yet again.
Link! You must find me.
And with that, I'm going to bring this episode to a close. I hope you enjoyed some of my thoughts, theories, ideas, or just the footage itself. But as I said, this is the end of this episode. So please, if you enjoyed it, found it informative, hit a like, drop a comment down below, and subscribe to the channel if you're not already signed up. This is Wishblend signing off. Laters.